Hello again and welcome to my channel. Today's tutorial is for a baby cardigan, a crocheted baby cardigan, just using a simple shell pattern for the body and a double knit yoke that we increase on alternate rows. I'm using a 4.5mm hook and I'm working with double knit yarn. We need to start with a chain of 49. So if you want to slip knot onto the hook and work the 49 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48 and 49. We're now going to work a double crochet into the third chain from the hook. So yarn over into the chain, pick up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's going to count as 2 stitches. We've got the 3 chain here and then the stitch, so we've in effect done 2 stitches. I now want you to work 1 double into each chain all the way along. Just working 1 double into each stitch. You will have a total of 47 stitches altogether as you've worked your double into each of the chains. You may want to pause the video until you've worked the double into each of the chains that we started with. The next row is going to be an increase row. We're going to start with 3 chain, and again that's going to count as the first stitch. Flip over and work 1 double into the next stitch. We're now going to work 2 doubles into the next stitch along. So we've got 1 and 2. We're going to work a double into the next 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then 2 doubles into the next stitch, 1 and 2. We're going to carry on all the way across, working 1 double into each of the next 3 stitches and then 2 into the next one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work 2 into the same stitch. 1, 2 and 3, and then 2 into the next stitch. One, 2 and 3, and then 2 into the next stitch. Two into the next one, And just carry on all the way along, working 3 doubles and then 2 doubles into the same stitch. We've reached the last increased stitch here and we're left with 3 stitches. I'm just going to work 1 double into each of those 3. So you can see that we're actually starting to form the shape of the yoke. The next row, and I'm not going to show you how to do this one because it's straightforward and simple. You're just going to start with 3 chains, which counts as the first stitch, and then you're going to work 1 double into each and every row right round to the opposite side. The following row is going to be another increase row where we're going to work, I'll just imagine that I've already done the last row. So the next row following the row of just the doubles, you will chain 3, a double into the next stitch, and then 2 doubles into the next one. This time, instead of doing the 3 stitches in between, we're only going to do 2. So we've got 1 and 2, and then you will do 2 into the next one. And we'll do this twice over. So the rows that you'll end up with look like this. So we did the first row, which is just the doubles. The second row was the row where we started with 3 chain, a double into the next stitch, and then 2 doubles into the next one, 3 doubles, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 all the way along. The next row, the alternate row, is just to work back 1 double in each stitch, and then the third repeat is exactly the same as the second repeat, where we would work the 2 in one stitch, 2 in each of 1 in each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 followed by the last 2 stitches. If you want to just check and recap on the increased rows, after the first increased row you will have 58 stitches. After the second increased row, which is this one, you will have 77 stitches, and then on the final increase row, which I've just done here, you will have 102 stitches. As long as you've got the stitch count right, we can carry on then with the shells. So to start the shell pattern, again we're going to start with 3 chain. So we've got 1, 2, 3, flip over, and we're going to miss the first stitch here and then work a shell into the second one along, and the shell is 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles into that same stitch, and there we've formed the first shell stitch. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and work a shell. So again we've got 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. We're going to work the same all the way across this first row, working a shell pattern in every 3rd stitch. So we miss 1 and 2, and then into the 3rd one we're going to work the shell. So at the end of this row, provided you had the correct amount of stitches as you worked the yoke, you will be able to work 33 shells across this row. And again, you can pause the video while you work your shells all the way across, and I'll carry on with one that I did a little bit earlier. Once you've got to the end of your shell row, you're going to work one double crochet into the very last stitch that we've got here. So this row now, the next row, we're going to work the armholes. So we're going to work just into the first 5 of these shells. So the first stitch that we do, as always, is the 3 chain, and that's going to count as the first stitch. We're going to flip over and into the 1 chain space of the shell from the previous row. Just put this pink underneath so that you can see it a little bit better. Into this shell, into the 1 chain space in the shell, we're going to work a shell. And again, the shells are exactly the same as before, just 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles. We're going to skip the 2 stitches from the first chain and the 2 stitches from the next. We're going to skip the 2 stitches from the first shell and the 2 stitches at the beginning of the next shell and go straight into that second shell and work another shell. So 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles. We're going to work 5 shells before we split for the arm. There's 3, and 4, and we've just got the 5th shell. So those 5 shells are going to be the front of the cardigan. As you can see there, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're now going to skip 6 full shells. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if you just hold the 7th shell, just let the work fold. We're going to now work a shell into the 7th shell. So 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles. We're going to carry on now and work another 10 doubles, another 10 shells, so including this one here that we started with, where we've created the armhole for the sleeve. We're going to do 11 shells altogether. So we've got 1, there's 2, and 3, so again, you may want to pause the video until you've worked your 11 shells across. We've got the first one here and we're going to do a further 10. When you've worked the 11 shells, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Again, we're going to skip the next 6 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then into the 7th shell we're going to work a shell. And that just leaves another 4 shells, and we're going to work one shell into each shell and a double crochet into the very last stitch. So there's the last shell worked, and then into this last stitch, which was the 3 chain from the previous row, we're just going to work into the top of that stitch and work a double. So now we've got the yoke and we've split for the sleeves. So now each row is going to just be exactly the same. You're going to start with 3 chain and work 1 shell into each shell all the way across. When you get to the end, work a double into the last stitch, flip over, work the 3 chain and then work the shell pattern. I found for mine that 9 shell rows is about long enough for the first size baby cardigan. So if you want to carry on working now the 9 rows, working 1 shell into each shell all the way around, and I'll meet when we get to that point. I've now done my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. But before we break off, I'm going to work in single crochets all the way around, going up the front, around the neck, and then back down the front at the other side, and also incorporating 2 button holes as well, so that you can attach buttons for the fastening. So once you've done the 9 rows of shells, the final stitch was the double crochet. So now I'm just going to go into that stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over and pull through, and I'm going to work evenly along the row, going all the way up the front of the cardigan, just working a single crochet. It just neatens off the edge of the cardigan. So just carry on working 1 stitch into the post of the stitch and then 1 into each of the following. Just make sure that it's not pulling too tight. You can always add in an extra single crochet. There's no hard and fast rule on exactly how many you will do up and down the fronts. And it's not totally necessary to do it, but I just think it gives it a slightly neater edge. Now where I've got the yarn that I started off with, I will leave that because I'm going to sew the buttons on using that yarn. So up into the corner and into that corner stitch I do 2 singles just so that it doesn't pull too tight. And now between every stitch on that first row along here on the starting row that we did, I'm going to work a single in between each one of those. So into the space and a single crochet, and just work exactly the same all the way along. So if you want to just keep working a single in between each stitch, and I'll see you when we get to this other side of the neck. Now we've reached the other side of the neck, I'm going to work 2 singles into that corner again so that it doesn't pull too tight, and then one single into the next stitch, and at this point I will make a buttonhole, and I just do 4 chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just join to the base of the 4 chain and just slip stitch, and that just creates a little loop for the button. So again, we're going to carry on working downwards with single crochets, and I always add 2 buttons to these cardigans. So before we get to the bottom of the yoke, I'm going to work another buttonhole. So again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 chain, and then just slip stitch into the base of the 4 chains so that we've got a second little loop there, and then just carry on working a single crochet all the way down the other side. If you wanted to put the buttonholes on the other side, you could do it as you're working the single crochets on the way up this side and work the 2 buttonholes at this side. I don't really think it matters which side the buttons go on. So just single crochet all the way down to the bottom, and when we reach the last shell of the last row, I'm just going to slip stitch, snip off the yarn and fasten off, and then that end will be worked in later on. So there we've got the basic little cardigan. The only thing now is to add the sleeves. So I'll just show you the one sleeve, but obviously you'll work 2, and they're both worked in exactly the same way. So we're going to turn it inside out, and I'm going to join with a standing half double into the space here between the 2 shells where the sleeve opening is, and a standing half double is yarn over into that space, pick up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. We've now got 6 shells that we skipped when we split the yoke for the 2 fronts, the back and the sleeves, and we're going to work a shell stitch into each of these 6 shells. So just exactly the same as before. The shell pattern. The reason that I turned the work inside out as well is because this first shell would be on the wrong side. The next shell is worked on the right side, and just to keep it all uniform, it's just easier if you've got a wrong side and a right side on the shells. And we don't have a seam to sew up on these sleeves because we're going to work in the round. Which I just think makes just redo that one, makes a neater finish on the sleeve on the inside. So we've got 3, we should have another 3 shells to work. 1, 2, sorry, 1, there's 2, and now the final shell. So we've worked around the sleeve with 6 shells. We're now back to where we joined the standing half double. We're just going to join into that half double, which is here, with a slip stitch into the top. We're going to work 3 chain, and then we're going to turn over. So we're working on the opposite side, so where we've got a wrong side shell here, we'll have a right side shell. And again, we're just going to work 1 shell into each of the shells from the previous row. So each row will have 6 shells. And again, if you want to adjust the length, you can do so. You can add in an extra shell, or if you feel that yours is already long enough, you can do 1 row less of the shells. But for mine, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've worked 8 rows of shells for the sleeve, and I think that's a good length for a sleeve. So you do it both sleeves exactly the same, starting on the wrong side and then flip over for the next row, so that you're working alternate rows of right and wrong side. You will be able to see on the shells of the body of the cardigan that the rows are worked in the opposite directions. I'll just show you close up that you can see we've got a right side and a wrong side, a right side and a wrong side, and it's just nice to keep the sleeves exactly the same. Again, when you get to the 6th shell, we're going to join into the top of the 3 chain that we started with a slip stitch, and then this time we're going to work on the right side of the sleeve. So we're going to start again with 3 chain and then start to work the 6 shells. Working the sleeves is a little bit more fiddly than working the body, because we've got a much tighter space that we're working into. But I think it's easier to work it in the round, doing alternate sides as the right side, so that we've not got a seam to have to stitch up at the end. So that's my 6 worked again, and again I'm going to just slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. So there I've worked 4 rows now. We've got 4 rows for the sleeve. So if you want to carry on until you've got the length that you want your sleeve to be, ordinarily I would actually work 8 rows, but just for this tutorial I'm going to show you how to finish off the sleeve without having to watch me do another 4 rows of shells, which would be quite boring. So imagine that we've done the full 8 rows here. So the next row, which is the last row, we're going to work 2 chain, and then into the shell, into the space, the chain space of the shell, we're going to work a half double. So it's yarn over, into the shell, pick up a loop, yarn over and pull through 3. We're now not going to skip this space, we're going to do a half double in the space between the 2 shells, and then we go across to the chain space in the shell and work a half double, and then the chain the space in between the 2 shells, a half double into the chain that's part of the shell and a half double, and then the space in between the 2 shells, a half double, and carry on exactly the same all the way around the bottom of the sleeve. That just pulls the sleeve in slightly. There we've done the final shell. So I'm going to join into the 2 chains that we started the row with a slip stitch, and that finishes off the sleeve. So your final worked cardigan will look something like this. You'll have your 2 sleeves that have been finished off with the half doubles worked around. You've got your 2 buttonholes here, and you'll stitch on a button on the other side to correspond to where the buttonholes are. I do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.